Great peace, great peace, great peace. All right, so I want to talk real quick about parenting. I want to talk about parenting real quick. Like, God forbid you end up in this situation, or, I end up in this situation. God forbid. Like when you have a child and, you decide that, you're going to stick with a certain person, whether she be a woman, whether he be a man, and you have more children, you want to make sure like every landscape of this kid's life is mapped out, like it's completely vetted, groomed, and brushed over. You want to make sure that, because I see the prison systems, because Meek Mill, he just posted a photo of him with the attorneys, who got him free. Thank goodness, right? And you notice like a lot of guys who are in the system, like who are victims of probation fraud and probate violation. You notice you see a lot of these things, and like, there's no recourse for correcting these things, as far as, having a life insurance policy or anything that would, get these men back to where they can take care of their lives and their children again. I see parents and they have kids, and, they have a kid and, like he's 18, they're looking for the kid to, whether it be a woman or a man, 18, right? You're adult now. They're looking for them to head and take care of the bills. Like, when you're having a child, you need to make sure that, you find a way to get this child past, the point where they can take care of themselves. You don't want to have multiple children and like you're looking for them to, go out and get a 40-hour, because it's taken from their schooling. Like, you're looking for them to go out and get a job so they can, pay the mortgage or anything like that. A lot of parents do that type of stuff. And like, to me, they use children as like, a policy. They use kids like a policy. They have a child and, the child goes outside. He's trying to, because they didn't teach him anything. They didn't teach her anything. They're out in the streets fighting. They're fighting people who are their neighbors who live down the street over this way. They're fighting and they're causing gang wars. I saw this in Chicago. And like, they don't get the children out of these communities. They leave them there, so when a child gets shot now, they're online, threatening to do this to this person or that person. That stuff happens a lot and people just don't see it, or they don't care to see it. Like 2012, 2013 was a violent year for Chicago, a very violent year. Like, I kept seeing people who I grew up with, they went in situations where they were either getting gunned down or they were going to jail. People that I grew up with in Chicago, you know what I mean? So it's like, how do you break the lines where like this stuff is just not happening anymore? And like, attorneys are being held accountable, judges are being held accountable, school superintendents are being held accountable, the parents are being held accountable. Like, if your child gets in trouble, you need to be accountable for that. And like, to me, like, this stuff just continues to cycle on and on after each generation. Like, this stuff was happening in the 50s. Like, the stuff we see today, where, the son had to head the household and go out in the field and become a laborer. And like, that stuff, like, that's too much wherewithal on a child. You know what I mean? Like, to have to do all of that, you know what I'm saying? And not have a chance to live his childhood out. You hear about the stories of Michael Jackson, right? And how he was forced to be a pop performer. Like, he went through heck trying to get his childhood back in his adult ages. You know what I'm saying? So you see these things, and like, I really want to stress with people, like, don't force your child to grow up in that situation. Don't do that, because You know, you're making it hard on the environment, and you're also making it hard on um, everyone who's involved in, you know, the service of being a human, the service of being an educator, or, you know, just someone who is way by. You know what I mean? Like, you make it hard on them. So, like, you know, I wanted to say something else, and this is the reason why I started this video, because I wanted to say that one particular thing, but it just slipped my mind when I started talking about other stuff. But, like, you know, I keep saying it, man. It's like, man, you know, you shouldn't be dependent on your oldest son or your oldest daughter to, you know, come up with $500, you know, to pay this end of the rent. You know, like, I see it all the time. Like, even on the internet, like, you see people who are going through that with their parents, where they're just like, you know, the parents are putting them out the house, and, you know, the man is coming over, and, you know what I'm saying? And he comes back in the house, they ain't laid in with the bedroom door locked, and they in there laying down. It's that type of thing, man. It's like, I don't know, like, you know, where people get this thing where, like, they can just be that irresponsible. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I would never, and this is the reason why I never had a child by a woman in America. You know what I mean? Even in the opportunities that I did have, I just never went for it, because I knew something, like, the environment wouldn't allow it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I knew, like, if you're going into a fifth decade of a particular foundation of a country, right, and you're thinking like, this is going to work, you know, if it's no precedence of it working, you know, wherever you are, you know, particularly like you say, Africa, it works, right? Wherever you are, if it doesn't works, don't do it. You know what I mean? Like, don't do it. You know what I mean? Because, like, the people who run government, they see things that the public doesn't see, and they're not going to tell the public what the public doesn't see, so the public can react to it. They're not going to do that. You know, you're just going to have small towns here and there who are going to be benefiting from, you know, the economic prowess of having, you know, good citizens and good residents. You're going to have that. But, like, the vast majority of people, like, who are in America, you know, they're subpar in their activities. You know what I mean? This is why you get the child who turns 19, 20, 21. He's off to prison. You know what I'm saying? So this stuff needs to be stopped. And, like, I hope Donald Trump says, you know what, we're going to stop this. I hope he comes in and says that, like, we're going to do something about that. Because, like, you know, a lot of rappers are supporting him. And, like, I see, like, he could do something as far as, like, before he leaves. Like, if he already hasn't done something, like, he could do something to start holding these parents accountable for the stuff that they do, man. Because, like, you know, if you're trying to, like, you shouldn't be a drudge on your child, you know, by the time they turn 20. You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't be a drudge on them. You know what I mean? Like, asking them for money, and, you know what I'm saying, and go do this. Like, they have to live their own life. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't be doing that. You know, so great peace, Yakoki.